Good morning, Terrence. This is your favorite alien speaking, and my friend Bubba uh, on this Saturday morning here in Georgia. Uh, and just wanted to give you an update on the video I did about a week ago on the 60 Minutes Oprah Winfrey and lynching. Uh, wow. I must admit, I got a lot more responses than I ever dreamed of. I thought I would only get maybe one, probably a negative one. But hey, I got over 100 and counting, almost 150 now. And it's running 75 yay and 25 nay, which is a lot better than I thought. Uh, Speaking as an alien here, because I figured you guys would be all over me on this. Anyway, I did get a few ignorant remarks calling me ignorant, but it tells me that the people that are answering me back don't understand the meaning of the word comprehension, because lynching is not just hanging somebody on a tree. Lynching is mob overtaking the rule of law. In the case, say, of, remember when Rodney King over in Los Angeles back in the early 1990s? And the system found the officers not guilty, so you guys created a mob riot over there because you didn't like the results. That's the problem with not liking the results. And taking that is lynching. What you did to Mr. Reginald Denny, taking him out of the truck, that is lynching, whether you like it or not. Every so-called race on this planet has blood on their hands from lynching. And a good example would be, for you African Americans that are not African related issues, how many of you have seen the movie Braveheart? He got lynched because he was a terrorist to the King of England. And the way they did it, they sanctioned it. That's what's called sanctioned lynching. And your society seems to love that here. So you had the mob there, remember? Oh, the people there. When you have a mob for an execution, that is lynching. And you had that in the West, remember? Cattle rustlers, oh, they would strung you up in the tree. But you also had sanctioned lynching. Judge Roy Bean, he was really a judge. Not in the normal sense of it. He may have gotten a judgeship, but anybody can get a judgeship but not be a judge. You got bad judges all over the place. You got bad juries all over the place. Rodney King's police officers, the police officers over in Missouri, you name it, you got them. And it's not just blacks. It's white related, Asian related, Latin Americans. Oh, they got a lot of lynchings over in Latin America. Look what's happening in Venezuela. Chile and Argentina, their histories are blurred with that. Peru, Bolivia, even my home country of Panama, yeah. We've had our share of bad lynchings and riots and stuff like that. So you see, the people that call me ignorant, they don't understand, let alone comprehend, that lynching is something you should teach your kids is awful. Mob rule is not the place to go, and you African Americans seem to like mob rule because, you guys like Jesse Jackson, you guys like Louis Farrakhan and Malcolm X. But, Martin Luther King, well, he was just a pain in the ass. He didn't say much. And that's what I've heard from a few of you guys, even when I was a kid. And to me, Mr. King was trying to get you guys to comprehend, same as his protege, Mr. Young. And most of you look at Congressman Lewis. He is just a politician. He never learned what Mr. King was trying to say. If you look at Mr. King and you look at Mahatma Gandhi, two of the guys that were cut from the same mold, uh, you would see that. That you are trying to get people to comprehend. William Shakespeare, another guy that was cut from the same mold, he was trying to get people to comprehend, but he was centuries before his time, poor guy. Same with Mahatma Gandhi, and I would think Martin Luther King was the same way. They were centuries too early, and very few people, if any, ever got what they were trying to say. But as far as lynching here, you want to create a museum for lynching? You got videos of lynching. You got photographs of lynching. Look what happens to Auschwitz over in Poland. The Allies, especially I would say the Americans, left that open for future generations as they put it back in 1945. Well, here we are, 70 plus years away, and the people are starting to dwindle going over to Poland. The new generation could care less. It's like here in America. Remember Pearl Harbor? No, because it's over 70 years since Pearl Harbor. It's like trying to say, remember the Alamo. And how many of you would understand what that is, let alone comprehend? It's like 70 years from now. 9/11 will be the same way. So, if you're trying to make a monument or a museum out of something, and I don't understand it. You're trying to make a museum out of lynching, but you want to eliminate the monuments to the Confederacy. Why? They're both bad. The monument should be left alone, and you should teach your kids this is why the monuments were built. And they were built, most of them, in the 20th century. On your history, I'm telling you, Terrence, this is your history, not mine. And why were they built in the 20th century? The people that built them were probably don't even remember the Civil War. It's like you guys trying to build a lynching, say, 50 years after 1968. The older generation will probably do, but then, the more time passes, the more you change the facts a little bit. But be that as it may, you should have those monuments as why they were built, who built them, why did they build them. And that's what you should teach the succeeding generations. But don't perpetuate your bias to theirs. That's what's happening. That's how come you've got bigotry, hatred, and racism. And yes, African Americans, you guys can be racist too. But what I'm saying here is, if you don't comprehend the meaning of lynching, how are you going to comprehend the meaning of all the other stuff you're trying to do? Lynching just didn't happen to you. What are you going to do? Go to Italy and say, oh, Italians are bad because they crucified all the slaves they had during Roman times? Or the British for crucifying Mr. Wallace, a.k.a. Braveheart? And how about the two kids that were put in the tower because Richard III didn't want them to have the throne? It's mob rule here. And that's where you get lynching. You had a good example here in Georgia, which happened back in 1915, and you notice that how the newscasters here in Georgia use kid gloves to deal with that because they have the families of Sessions and Candler and everybody still here in Georgia, where they took that poor guy just because he was Jewish and not all there, and he was in safe. The governor put him in Milledgeville, which was the capital at the time, to keep him safe. And they went all the way down there, brought him all the way back to Marietta, and right where the big chicken is, here in Marietta, they lynched him, with a lot of people looking on. So this is what I'm saying, Terrence, and especially you Georgians. There's been a lot of lynchings in Georgia, Alabama, because of the Jim Crow laws. You can't eliminate those. You can't wipe those out of the face of the history. That happened. But have you learned something? Have you comprehended something from them? No. Until you do, me and Bubba say, where do we stand? And more or less, other civilizations in the universe will say, what the heck? Do we want these guys to be roaming free in the galaxy with the way they look at things? That's the way you guys should look at you. Do you really belong in the galaxy? No. You're more dangerous to the galaxy than having hot water on cold potatoes. So, let me know, huh? Thanks.